tonight's meeting to order for the Jersey Area School Board for January 24th, 2022. Roll call, Mr. Enders.
Mr. Allen.
Present.
Mrs. Calhoun.
Here.
Ms. Dobler. Mrs. Edwards.
Here.
Mrs. Grant.
Here.
Mr. Kinley. Here. Mrs. Petrosky.
Here.
Mrs. Stemler. Mrs. Thomas.
Here.
All 9 members present.
Next, we have the Pledge of Allegiance, and we have some students helping us with that tonight.
Mr. Jean, would you like to introduce your students for us?
Okay, good evening, board. At this time, I'd like to bring 2 kiddos up from Mrs. Allison's 5th grade class, Reagan Crawford and Grayson Willits. They're going to lead us in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If you two could come right on up here, I have something for you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good job. Oh, sorry. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you, parents, for bringing them.
Our next agenda item is approval of the minutes. We have minutes from November the 8th, 2021, regular meeting, November 22nd, 2021, regular meeting, December the 5th, reorganizational meeting, December 13th, 2021, regular meeting / special meeting. May I have a motion to approve? Then a first and second, any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those not in favor, nay. Motion is carried. Next thing we have is approval of the bills. We have the November bill of November 2021, which is $3,143,677.39. Then we also have on this agenda the December bills of 2021, which is $4,586,996.12. This seems a little higher than normal, but in December there were 3 pay periods. May I have a motion to accept?
Motion.
Any questions?
Mrs. Thomas, you were correct, and there's 3 pays in December. But also included in that was our quarterly teasers payment of just shy of $1.5 million. So that was the other thing that drove it up for the month of December. Thank you.
Thank you. Is the treasurer report first? Did I miss it? No, doesn't look like mine. Oh, mine didn't all print out. Okay. And that includes the treasurer's report. No questions? All those in favor, aye. Not in favor, nay. All right, next we have letter Part C, presentations, communications. Dr. Ulmer.
I would just like to point out to the board, I hope you all have been getting the regular emails from PSB. I want to draw your attention to those, and especially the information you've been getting in those about the school funding lawsuit. They have been communicating regularly about that ongoing, and I haven't shared too much with you because I get almost a daily email about who's testifying and what they're testifying about. But I want to draw your attention to that. That has the ability to shape our funding source and our funding allocations from PDE, depending on how that lawsuit falls. So I'm just drawing that to your attention. Thank you.
Next is the president's report. We did have an executive session before tonight's meeting, and it started at 5:45 p.m. Next on the agenda, IU report. Anything that you have, Jesse, for us? The IU report.
Sorry. I met Megan also, I know this makes me sound so bad, but thank you very much for allowing me to go through the IU presentation. I'm very passionate about it, but I knew it would be a lot of responsibility, but really is a lot of responsibility. We've had this overall what is expected and what teachers to come out and future aspects, and it really, really is a great organization to be a part of. That's about it.
And I will add to that, that author was brought in to all of our elementary schools via a donation from our Education Foundation. So thanks to the Education Foundation, that author has already been in as an author visit in all of our elementary schools.
Student rep, do you have anything for tonight?
Hello, my name's Madeline Gerst, and I'm the Senior Student School Board Representative. I just have a few things here that I'd like to share with you. So Friday the 14th, we had an activity day, and that was a way for all the students who didn't get written up or any ODRs or anything to celebrate the end of the semester, and there was lots of fun activities like volleyball in the gym, different movies to watch, crafts in the art room, games like virtual reality and Uno, and there was even karaoke, so I thought that was pretty cool. And then we do have an upcoming dance March 5th. Key Club is putting on the Sadies, which is when the girls ask the guys. And they're currently trying to decide on a theme and decorations, and lots of students are talking about it. Some girls have even bought in their dresses, so it's very exciting. And this last thing here is more of a request. So every day I drop my sister off at the middle school at 7:45, and I get to school about 7:50. That gives me enough time to get inside, park, and get to homeroom in time. And the only issue with that is that my sister has to stay outside in the cold until 8 o'clock. The doors don't open till 8, and I don't think that that's acceptable right now with the weather. And I think that we could just have one or two teachers every morning just supervise either like the auditorium, the gym, even their classroom, and just get the students out of the cold. Every morning there's like 15 to 20, and I just don't like to see that. So if you guys could just work on that, and I don't know, maybe before the winter months are over, we could have that changed. So,
As a clarification, you're talking about the middle school?
yes, the middle school.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Maddie.
Next on the agenda is the superintendent's report.
Under my report, there are 4 different things I want to talk about. I'm going to go in reverse order because I want Mrs. Henry to be able to get back to her event. Under policies, there are 3 policies there for presentation. All of those contain PSBA edits as we continue to make sure that we're up to date with policies. I just want to draw them to your attention. A few minor language changes. If you have any questions about those, please let me know. Those will be not on for first read to vote on until the next meeting. I'm going to recognize Serena Henry, and while she's coming up to speak, I'm going to point out that at your spot when you sat down, there is a paper that looks like this, which was attached to last week's update. That it says "Play on Sports" at the top. That is the agreement that Serena is bringing forward to the board for potential approval, but we wanted to discuss it first. We did have a conversation previously about live streaming athletic events. This is the company that we have selected to bring to the board in terms of what they're offering to us as a district. You can see the full language on that document of what that contract would potentially look like. And I'm going to turn it over to Serena to give you some more information and ask any questions you might have about live streaming.
All right. So in the age of COVID, sometimes parents can't get to games, grandparents can't get to games, and sometimes we just don't want everyone at the games. So our solution is live streaming. And last year, with the help of technology, we were able to live stream with an iPad. And most of the time, my intern did it for us, sat in the stands and did it. The National Federation High School Network Pixelot system solves a lot of problems for this. It's a system that is put directly into your venue, and then it live streams the events for you automatically. So to get the Pixelot system in as many schools as possible, they originally were offering 2 cameras per school district. So that way you could put one in your football stadium and one in your high school gym. They have now changed that to 3 free systems. So for us, we would be looking at the football stadium, the high school gym, possibly the soccer stadium, which would cover all soccer levels, and then we could use it for track also, or the middle school gym. And they come, the National Federation has a group that will come in, evaluate our areas, and do the free installation for us. So we don't even have to have someone install them, and they're giving us the units for free. So what is included in that are camera units that are waterproof in a single mounted unit. That was the camera you saw there, okay? Scoring devices that plugs into our scoreboard so that when you're watching the game, the score will show up across the bottom. And it includes a desktop computer for production and video processing. So how does it work? It automatically tracks the features from the camera on the field. So if it's football, it tracks the football to follow the game, the play in the game. Soccer ball, same way. Basketball, same way. There is no camera operator. It's all automated within the house unit of the camera. So I don't have to try and find someone to do it. I'm not pulled away from it to do it. A parent's not doing it. And a lot of times when you have someone that you're just pulling out of the stands to live stream an event, you don't know what they're saying. So it saves all of that. It's automatically done for you. It integrates with my scheduling star system. So when I put an event in, it can see that event, and then it will automatically turn on and turn off at the beginning of the event, and then when the game's finished. It also integrates with our coaching software. So any of the booster clubs that purchase software for the coaches to use for any of their training and to send for any recruiting, it all integrates with that also. There's spots on the screen where we can put our logos, and so advertising with logos also. Then when on the internet is the National Federation network system where you go to view this. And then at that at that network site, I guess, that page, it becomes our school page. So we can put all our events there. If we are, say at Bellefonte, playing, it can also tag our event there on our system. So it can also be, so you just go to our homepage and see our home and away events. All right, here's an example. It worked. I'm so excited. See, I'm not technology, so I'm excited. Oh, maybe it didn't work. Dang it.
I had some trouble viewing this myself. I don't know. I don't think it's just you.
Oh, there it is. All right. So here's an example of a soccer game. You see the score across the bottom. And the camera's going to travel with the ball in play. All right. Basketball. And football. Behind Dr. Almer on the screen is the score. I told you 2nd and 7, 4th inning, or 4th quarter, and your time. So it gives you your scoreboard graphics that you have on any scoreboard. So you can follow where the game is at that point. Now I'm going to pick up the sound. It connects to your score box in your press box, so it can also be integrated in through your announcements with as someone's calling the game for you. So we don't usually call basketball, but you would have that where you can hear the press box for the football games. Try and get through. So like for basketball, though, like the games when they're announcing the players, things like that, you won't hear that? No. No, because we wouldn't have it set up like that. But it's something we can work, I'll get to you here to answer that question better here. Okay, the local schools in the area using the Pixelot systems is Selinsgrove. I think Selinsgrove was one of the schools to first jump on it. We have Midwest, Central Columbia, Danville, Montoursville, Penns Valley, Bellefonte, Bloomsburg. But there's over 250 schools that are using this in the state of Pennsylvania. And there's over 8,000 schools that use it across the U.S. So what's nice is when it's in your system and when it's in your school, they offer non-athletic events to be streamed for free. So graduation can automatically be streamed on it. pep assemblies that we do in the gym, homecoming parade in the gym and in the stadium, our Bulldog signing day for our athletes, and any activities that take place in the gym or at the stadium. If you're doing Relay for Life, it's something that can be or live streamed for viewing for free because they offer this as long as it's not an athletic event. So there's pretty much any way you want to watch it, you can, the same way you do any of your videos these days, smartphone, tablet, computer, or any of your TV devices. There's a lot of times I'll watch football games on Sundays, our Friday night football games on Sunday on our Roku TV in my basement. Now, there is a cost to it for people to watch. There is a monthly member subscription for $10.99, or there is an annual subscription of $69.99. Now, for two adults to get into our basketball games is $10. Right there's your monthly cost of your subscription. There's your two adult tickets into a basketball game, and you're not counting the gas or the concessions you spend at your game. And that's only one game. Your monthly, if we have 4 events at the high school for that month, you now just bought $40 worth of tickets to get in, plus concessions, your travel time and to and from the game. You buy the membership for $10.99, you're saving a lot of money, actually. It's cheaper. I've talked to all the schools listed on the screen of the area PHAC schools and area schools that we participate with that have it, and they've really had no one complain about purchasing the cost to video it or to view it. They've had no parent come back and really complain at all that they are now required to pay a membership or a subscription to do it. The subscriptions include regular season events, postseason events, which a lot of times you can't get your postseason events unless they're broadcast by PIAA. With this, you can see your regular season and your postseason, and you can see it as many times as you want. So one advantage to that here is you have full access to the regular season, postseason, on demand, and it's supporting the local school program. Now, if you have a family member who has an athlete playing at Danville, you can watch their games too, included in your subscription, or anywhere across the United States. So like Baltimore City Schools, you have a cousin that plays basketball there, you can now watch those games under your subscription, and it doesn't cost you anything additional, but now you get to see the games as if you're right there. So yes, your subscription, what's nice is it does include the postseason, and then if any school that has a Pixelot system on the National Federation network, you can watch any of their games. So I've watched Army football, I've watched Air Force football, just, because I have the subscription, I can watch their games off of that. Now, we do get some perks if people are buying subscriptions. So they're spending $10.99 for the monthly subscription. We would then get 82 cents of that monthly subscription for everyone who does that. If they buy the yearly subscription at the $69.99, we get $19.99 for every yearly subscription of that. Then on the screen, there's also areas that are set up for advertising. So, for example, we walk down the street and get a restaurant to buy an advertisement spot. We can put their logo in the corner. It's on there on the screen, advertising for the restaurant, and we are now making money off of that. We tell them, hey, for $500, we can put your logo on here for the entire season. And the $500 is for ours to keep. This also connects to the classroom. So it's not only making it benefits for people to watch our live stream events, we now can connect to the high school AV department and get them on working on sports broadcasting. So they have a unit that they would send with us to get us started with adding that in the classroom. And it's not just now you're taking the whole educational side up to it and adding that benefit to our students. Coaches can record practice under a private setting so that it's not put onto the network of our page, but coaches can access it to record practices, to review drills and stuff with the team. It also coordinates with any Huddle software that most teams use Huddle as their recruiting software so that they can build and share between other teams their film and stuff. So it also coordinates very well with that. So here's part of their sponsorship guide and the benefits that you can get from it. As I had said earlier, you know, you can sell those spots for $500 for the season. And that's just what they're suggesting pricing is. It just opens up to additional revenues within this within my department / school district to offer those options, and it's just an additional advertising option for people in the community. There is a contract with it. It's a 5-year agreement. After 5 years, it becomes a rolling agreement for like a month-to-month thing. And then it covers all the maintenance of the equipment. They come in and check anything. If there's any problems or glitches or anything, we just contact them and they send a text out to take care of it for us. So, questions? Yeah. The tech department, did they look at this? So they'll send out a group to come and look at our facilities and tell us what we need to either install it or what, if it doesn't work at all for us. Because of the football stadium where it is, they don't see a problem with it, but they deal with that all the time, not having the football stadium right there. So they know how to evaluate our places, our facilities, to tell us what we need for it.
The important thing I think there is the installation is on them. So the computer running it is part of their system, not necessarily. They may just need internet access from us, essentially.
Yeah. We can buy additional cameras. Each additional camera is $3,500. No, they'll be permanently fixed in those locations.
For the special events, does that include like elementary sports? Does that
Only if they were in that location. Like if they were using
in that location? Okay.
the high school gym, it could be included.
Okay. And the other one is now softball. Does that count as the same as baseball and Little League? If it says it's an additional purchases for the preschool system?
Yes, and that's the $3,500 per camera unit.
Okay.
But I would honestly not suggest doing it at the soccer or softball field because it's not our facility. So that's something that I think would have to be a long-term kind of commitment to look at it and see what are we actually going to do here. Because I have equipment that gets broken all the time there.
I think baseball could be a possibility because that's our facility, but
Yep.
not softball. I mean, we would have to get, one, it's borough property, so we would have to get borough permission. The one thing I did notice on here, because I heard this question about swimming, it does say in here, and I read it earlier today, that new sports will be added as they're released. I don't believe they are necessarily covering every type of sport. I don't know for sure if swimming is covered. One of the issues is, you heard Serena say, the computer system is programmed to follow the ball. So I don't know if necessarily swimming qualifies because there really isn't a ball to follow. Most of these types of systems are programmed to virtually follow the ball on the field and to look for that moving target. So I don't know if swimming would even work.
You made me to go with water polo.
No.
I have a question. So are we still going to have the parent agreement privacy where we had parents sign off to be able to have their children live stream?
It would be part of, it would have to continue to be part of an athletic agree, like when they sign their kids up for sports, they would have to sign off on allowing that to occur.
And then I have another question as well. You mentioned the Huddle software that booster clubs purchase for coaches.
Mhm.
I've never heard, how many of our booster clubs are using that right now?
Well, I think both basketball teams, football, and I think both soccer teams. I'm not positive. The booster club takes care of it. I don't deal with any of that. So, softball has me included in, or not softball, but football has me included in it. So the only reason I know is because I see the film flying back and forth all weekend long. But I think basketball covers theirs on Huddle also. I think it's, when I was talking to Huddle about their system came in about $12,000 per year for us to do the Huddle system. But that included the, having all the booster clubs involved in that and access to that as with those sports. And I think at that point it was like $350 is about between $300 and $400 is what our booster clubs are paying to cover for that. In order for them to well, like he was explaining with the ball, so there is a way you can still film it and turn off the automation to it so that you can film like a stationary area. That's something that, yeah, that's something that when you go through and you pull up the automated, or you schedule everything to happen, you can go through and automatically turn that off and make that work.
I would say that based on the way that reads,
Yeah.
you would be seeing the whole map. So it's not like a basketball where it's going to be zoomed in and following the ball. You're just going to see the whole map stationary, the camera's on.
I have a question for you. When it comes to the maintenance, I saw that there is a website that you're to submit a support request. Do you have any idea if they are local and how quickly that can be turned around?
Making a tech service call, I do not.
That would be something I'd be interested in knowing, because the company says they're out of Georgia, and if you're having any kind of malfunctions, they are claiming that you're to pack up the equipment and send it back, and that their turnaround will be first come, first serve as quickly as possible. But in the meantime, what does that, you got it, what does that constitute? Are we talking days, weeks?
Okay.
So if you could get back to the board and let us know if there is a local maintenance team or tech that comes out to fix them, and how quickly that is done.
Yep, I can do that.
Thank you.
No. Right now they're offering the free installation, because originally it was offered 2 free cameras, and then you could install it, or you could pay $2,500 to have them installed. Now they're giving us 3 cameras with free installation.
Do we have a period of time where we have to make a commitment to have them honor that?
They emailed me the contract, or that we can, what was that again?
Do we have to do it, like, is it good, the deal is good for 60 days or 90 days? Do we know that?
I do not, they did email me the contract, so I would have to look at
I'm
the
just
details of the
processing if
contract.
the board would need to take action, like at the next meeting or something, to be able to honor that free camera.
I have another question. As it pertains to advertising,
Mhm.
what does that look like from your standpoint?
Well, on like who's getting the advertising, or are we allowed to advertise? I mean,
Yes, to all of it. It's
Okay,
my understanding.
okay.
It's a loaded question.
I think if we want to do the advertising route, I think it's something we have to look into under the policy.
We'd have to look at the
first.
policy.
And then I think once we clear that up, then we could go into just on how we wanted to go about that.
We would have, after we looked at the policy, in my mind, if it's okay in the policy, we'd almost have to create, Serena and Mr. Keenan, myself, to bring to the board, like what almost like a schematic of what you get for your money type of thing. Like, how many, do you get a whole season? Do you get so many games? So that it was standard across all sports and it would be clear.
And they help with that in your area. Like here's what people are doing in your area. So the National Federation system will help us create that when it comes that time.
What is the cost for this? Like, I know you said like cameras are free, installation is free. There are monthly subscriptions, yearly subscriptions. In the long run, what is this going to cost us, if anything?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Nope. In 5 years, when the contract's up, we decide if we want to keep it or not. If we decide we don't want to keep it, we pack it up, send it back.
The other options that you were looking at, did they have costs with them?
Like the huddle system was
Correct.
like $12,000 a year for us to do it well.
And you've been in contact with other schools that have been using this system?
Yeah.
And for how long have they been using it?
It's mostly come about after the past year when it's come through with the whole COVID thing, and everybody's been using it that way, but everybody's happy with it because it automatically does it. And it's up and running, and you're worrying about, something going on in your gym. You're not worrying about, oh my gosh, I got to turn something on. So it's just automatically does it with the schedule that's your sports schedule as designed.
So, like at Sealands Grove, have you asked them recently how the cameras held up through the fall at their outdoor football stadium?
I have
Or
not.
have you, like in a basketball court, has it been hit by a basketball and has it,
No, I have not asked any of the schools what, how they're seeing the longevity of the cameras right now,
that would be something.
but they're not ours. Yep.
As far as the revenue sharing, that's where they're making their money. And is there any,
They're making their money on the subscriptions, and then they're giving us a kickback to
Right.
have their system.
and they don't require a minimum number?
Nope. Nope.
And they're very cordial about, like, we got it at our house for the fall because there was a number of football games and things that you could see that our kids were in. And when I decided to say, okay, I think I did it for 3 months, there was no questions when I said that I wanted to disconnect this at this point.
Just for like a season or whatever?
But then, if you're gonna watch a lot of the sports, you're probably better to pay the yearly fee, but on the monthly fee, it was no problem canceling.
So my other question then is, how is this going to affect the revenue for our booster clubs as far as people going in live versus the cheaper way of subscription and
You'll, in the day of today, with the live streaming, you're gonna lose some of your attendance due to, and it does affect the booster clubs when people don't show up. But, there's no way to really make that up when you're live streaming. In the long run, it's pretty much just, it's not helpful to the booster clubs in this extent, but if you have people coming to games and in the day of COVID, possibly making others sick, it's a safer option that way. I'm all about trying to get the boost, because if the booster clubs are making money, it's less money out of my budget. So I try my best to keep them.
Well, and that was kind of my thought. And then with the advertising, would that money then go to directly to the sports budget, or would it go to the other aspects that is our sport, like boosters or?
I think we could set it up that way, if that advertising money goes into athletics.
In all honesty, I figured it would be more under when we designed that plan of looking at it that way. On
Even
how
a
we wanted-
percentage going
Yeah.
to,
It wasn't, because I knew it wasn't gonna happen tomorrow because of the policy, so I was pretty much like, okay, that portion of it will be taken care of later when that's looked at.
thank you very much for doing this research.
If the school district decides to go with the fourth camera, does that still have free installation, or do they have to pay for
Anything, I heard you say anything beyond 3 was 3,500 a camera.
Yes,
So the
that's the
fourth
camera
camera
system,
would be 3,500 bucks.
but I don't know about the installation
Oh,
of
good
that.
question.
Yes, so I'll find that out. Yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
So if you have a yearly subscription, you can watch any playoff game.
And in all honesty, I can see eventually playoff games requiring systems like this. That'll be part of, your venue checks all the boxes. Now, do you also live stream this?
And you talk about revenue loss, there might be some of that, but there's also the opportunity for grandparents, aunts, uncles that don't live here to be a subscription list and see their
Alumni,
grandchildren or whatever. Alumni to be watching.
yeah,
Kind of
Working parents.
also why I thought about like the boosters, how it would affect,
yeah.
if it would be even more beneficial, possibly, if we had the schematics set up.
And then the other thing is that these are on there. Like, you can go out to Selinsgrove and you can see the ones that they still have there. So if you're a parent that has to work, you can watch it the next day. You can watch it a week later. You can watch
We
it.
can watch it in the cafeteria the next day. We can pull it up on the TVs in the cafeteria. We can pull it up in the TVs in the lobby and play it there during the game. So if someone goes to the concession stand, gets a pizza or hot dog that they can get taken to the gym, they can actually watch it in the lobby while they're eating and then go back to the game. That can also be done.
Thank you.
Okay? Yep, if you have any more questions, think of anything, you can email me, because I'll email him tomorrow with what questions we have for tonight. Okay?
Thank you.
Also at your seat is a single sheet that looks like this. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Enders to talk about this report from Nutrition Inc.
Two cleanup assignments real quick for you. For four recently elected board members, I handed you back your certificate of election. We made a copy of that for our records, so you can have your originals back. Number two, your budget binders are in front of you. They are they're a lot emptier than what you're used to. I talked to Dr. Almer. We're going to try something new this year. So 1 week prior to the budget presentation. So for us, it'll be February 4th, that Friday. In board docs, there's a new section called budget. I will dump the current section of the budget that the department chairs will be speaking about in there for you, so you will have the same exact numbers they have in your budget binder. I will also print off and I'll probably bring them in here in the boardroom that Friday too, if you'd want to swing by and pick them up. So I will have them printed off for you the night you would come to the budget meeting to put in your budget binder. I'm just telling you, I'm going to dump them in that board doc section. We created a brand new, I'll call it a folder called budget. When you log into board docs, you will see it. It's right below board updates. And that's where those will go. And you guys will have the same exact documents that the department chairs will have when they're reviewing them for you. So I mentioned February 4th, February 14th. Happy Valentine's Day all. We are going to have our first budget presentation.
Just what you wanted.
They had 3 minutes. So that's that. Any questions regarding budget binder and how we're going to try to work it this year? I said that's mainly so that you would have the most current information at the time of presentation. Okay? Without further ado, Patty Burris, Vice President of Nutrition, and Mary Kay Bukavich is the Regional Manager. Two ladies can come on up. The board had asked us back in September to provide you information about transferring our current food service staff employees over to the, I guess, nutrition umbrella, for lack of a better term. Worked with Patty regarding that, gave you a one-page synopsis of the savings that she estimated, and then also kind of an overview of the benefit package that those employees would have under the nutrition group. Plan would be, they're here to answer some questions, any questions you guys would have. We would need to look at voting on this in the month of February. That would give us guidance on how to start our 22-23 food service budget, as this would go into effect at the start of next school year. Without further ado, I'll turn it over to Patty and any questions from the board.
Thank you. In front of you, you have a cost comparison. Basically, what we did is we took the current school year budget, 21-22, and then we calculated as if they were on the nutrition group payroll, so that we're comparing apples to apples. So you could see that basically when we do transition employees over, we do not decrease their rates because they, we have a high level of people leaving. So we try to maintain their current rates, and then we start a new starting rate for any newer employees that come on. So as people start to leave, you're going to be paying lower rates than you are currently. So that is why the wages are the same. Fringes are a little bit different because obviously you're a school district and we're a private business. So there are some differences in fringes, and also with health, we offer single health care coverage to anyone working 7 hours or more per day. And that's where you see the bulk of the savings is in health. So the current district budget for this year is $547,493. And if we calculate them, if they were on nutrition's payroll this current school year, it would be $491,996, which is a savings of $55,497. And then below, we included some of the information if they were a nutrition group employee. If they were offered health care, they pay 20%. Dental and vision, they cover 100%. We do offer life insurance at no cost to the employee, and we do offer a 401k. We do not match, but the employees have the option of contributing. And on the bottom there, what our typical PTO policy is, to give you an idea of what they would be getting off. Anyone have any questions?
Employees do we have that work for you? How many that work for us?
They currently, all the hourly employees work for you. work for the district. We have, yes, we have an on-site food service director. That's not a part of this, but that is the only nutrition employee on-site.
What is your
It varies. Right now, what you're seeing, you have a lot of people at around 10.70. So if you're looking at next year, most of them would bump up to $11 an hour. And then you have some of your longer term employees that have been here a while. Some are at 14, some are at 16, and some are at 17. So we would set a scale based on, like, for example, your head cooks have the highest rate. So if they, when they are to leave, we would set a head cook rate, so to speak. But our starting rate would be right around $11 an hour.
Less than the 4 to 5.75 hours, that wouldn't qualify for like the higher, whatever it is. the
I believe
benefits?
currently you only have 4 or 5 that qualify for healthcare. Is that about right?
Full-time people, I think there's one in each building, right?
Yeah, so,
Two at each of the buildings in town, so that's 6, and then 1 at each outlying building, so that's 8.
okay, so there would be 8 that would qualify.
But under your 7-hour plan, I think that would only be, I think the assistant cooks would not qualify, so it would only
Okay,
be
so it would be,
2 back down 5.
right.
of each building.
And how many employees altogether did we have?
30.
Some advantages, working for a private company, they are able to collect unemployment over the summer, which they're not currently able to do. So that's usually a good thing for them, that they're able to collect all summer. If they qualify. For unemployment? No, it would vary based on their work history. I'm not sure of everyone's work history, so whether or not they qualified for unemployment would be determined by the unemployment office, and it's based on their previous work history, so we wouldn't determine that.
Yeah.
Other questions? So, the meeting where this came up, Ben and I had been asked to compare the difference between outsourcing substitutes and hiring substitutes ourselves. So we presented that information back in September prior to renewing the Source for Teachers contract. During that conversation, the board asked that we provide information for the same, basically the same conversation with food service. Because we have a contracted food service company, would it be a savings if they took over the employees versus we hired them? So we're just answering that board question here is, what would it look like if we kept them or if they were nutrition employees?
No, we don't have other people that we would bring in. It would be similar to how it is now. We would have to hire substitutes within the community, and then, which are very difficult to find, and we understand that. But we do not have like hourly employees kind of just waiting around to come to another district. So it would work very similar to the way that it is now. The difference would be right now there's 2 levels of management. You have their district employees. So although we're managing them on a daily basis, we work with the district when we have any type of issues or concerns. So we would be directly managing them as opposed to having the school district involved. And we do have a lot of recruitment ideas and what's trending now we try to implement, but we do that whether they're district or nutrition employees. So I don't think that the recruitment would be much different than what we're currently doing. Very difficult to find staffing right now in the food service industry, as I'm sure you all know. So I wish we had a pixie dust or something that we could throw on there, but we're in the same situation as you, so it would be very similar. The district's billed on a monthly basis, so the payroll reports would be part of that invoice.
Now, under the health, there's the number 6 there. There are only 6 of our employees that take health care from the food service.
That's what I had. I believe there may be somebody with a buyout. Does that sound right? Yeah.
Are they the only ones on the, that can have it? And, I mean, do you give opportunities for our people to have insurance? Beyond the full-time ones?
No.
Okay.
Any other questions I can answer for you? No?
Thank you.
Thank you.
So to wrap that up, I just want to make sure the board understands that this will be included on a future agenda. We will have to take action on that section of the contract for Nutrition Inc. for the 22-23 school year. And Mr. Michael Jones from Hunt Engineering, I'll have him come forward, but I also want to point out that at your seat, there should be a copy of his presentation. I'm trying to remember what I did to find. There it is. I will draw your attention to the fact that it is different than what I sent to you as the first draft. So use the one that you got at your seat. It's the one I emailed earlier this afternoon, but it is copied in color at your seat. And as Michael comes to the podium, remember that we did ask Hunt Engineering, you'll see on the front, to do an educational space planning study and look at space in each of the buildings. We had extensive conversation and looked at those maps as a board, and you're going to see some of the responses to that work tonight. And he's also going to talk about the 3 priorities that the board set for capital projects going forward in this report. Go ahead.
Great.
Jones.
Thank you, Dr. Ulmer, and good evening, everybody. Met some of you, see some new faces. So I'm Mike Jones, architect at Hunt, project manager. We've done, quite a bit of work here putting some of this material together already, and we hope to kind of just keep gathering that data for you and get to a spot that you're comfortable with as far as a feasibility study. That's the ultimate goal, is to have an option and a 5-year plan going forward. So this is kind of the next step to that, and the agenda here would be just recapping where we left off last time quickly, to bring some of you up to speed on that, and then jumping into what we see as kind of the first 2 options as far as upgrading your current facilities at this time, and how we got to some of those educational space highlights, how we met with the teachers and the administration, and we'll show you those examples. So recapping the BCS here, which is the building condition survey, which is really a facilities condition assessment of your existing buildings. So some of the priorities there that came out of that is, HVAC and climate control. That was a big concern. The overall age and the infrastructure of those buildings. We can kind of see that on some of the exterior of the buildings where there might need to be masonry restoration and roofing and different things that really you need to take care of on the building envelope side to keep those buildings living longer. And some of the concerns there was the high cost, to update all of the aged infrastructure you do have. And then also we did hear about, equity a little bit through all 5 of the educational buildings. How does, I guess more specifically on the elementaries, you have the 3, and are they all equal? Do they have the same amenities as far as building and educational space? And then we were asked to look at some of the athletic field concerns as well, so we've kind of added that into this presentation. We had some existing recommendations in our report previously about how to upgrade what you have, and this next step was to really look at more conceptual master planning. So we have a few ideas that we've shown tonight that are now included. You can see there, some of the locker rooms really at the middle school, that's a concern down in the basement level used for the football field. Track is at the end of its life. The stadium field surface is at the end. Tennis courts are split. These are some of the things that were in a report that was actually sent to us. Previously, the district did that, and then we've now incorporated that and came up with some budget costs and some concepts for these. So this is a snapshot here of where we left with the cost per square foot as far as the condition only. So this does not include any educational space planning, but I just wanted to highlight, recapping it, you can see here that Avis and Solidasburg were some of the highest cost per square foot. They're a smaller building and they had a lot of needs there. And you can kind of quickly see that, okay, Jersey Shore Elementary was a smaller cost per square foot. But this is just kind of comparing the needs on a different scale here. The athletic field concept, so we did, really hear the need that you're looking for a new stadium, that would incorporate football and soccer and track all in the same area. So we did look at an option here out back of the high school. I think there's a couple of options here to turn it to the north, which would obviously be better for sun and some of the environmental conditions while playing the events. So you can see here that it does fit, and I think it would be a viable option if you were to consider a new stadium in the long-term planning. And that would actually free up, maybe some other areas we did hear about the softball field. You can see that is that corner lot now that is owned by the borough, so we could potentially reallocate space where the track is now, or not the walking track, right? Or what?
The walking track is in the football field, yeah.
Okay, so we could potentially fit another field there. We were thinking, the tennis courts, looking at different areas there. So the important thing is we have the budgets included for these type of upgrades, and I think as far as moving them here or there, that can come later on in your planning. Just a couple ideas out back at the middle school. You could make a tennis court. That would obviously be pretty intrusive there. There's a grade and some woods and things there, but it is an option. And then we were also looking at, we thought you owned this property on the other side of the high school drive there. So that might make a good area to clear out and look at additional athletic areas there. So either way, I think comfortably we have the budgets and the initial recommendations for those are now included in this report. So here's summarizing the costs, and one thing here that we've done, put in year 1 of the 5-year plan, basically. That's what we're starting to do here, is develop the scope of work for each year. Year 1 was the HVAC replacements, which is currently ongoing with SiteLogic and Hunt, our company. Currently they're bidding that, they're in the bidding phase, getting the costs together for that. And you can see the construction cost budget there and the project cost of 2 million using the ESSER's funding. In year two, we originally sorted into 3 priorities. This presentation includes priorities 1 and 2. I mean, we kind of put priority 3 was things that maybe weren't a high priority, obviously, priority 3, but it was like updating ADA bathrooms and different things that you don't necessarily have to do, but if you are doing renovations, you'd want to upgrade an ADA bathroom that's near that classroom. But we're not saying you have to do all of the ADA bathrooms in the building. So that's why we left those in 3 and they're not included. That's just one example of what was in priority 3. So 1 and 2 included here in that 30 million as far as upgrading the existing buildings and their condition. And then year 3 would be the athletic fields we just talked about. So I know this is a lot of information. Any questions right now on that recap?
So does 2 include the HVAC replacements that are not done in 1?
No, year 1 is separate at this point.
No, I'm talking other buildings. Does year 2 include the upgrades of HVAC for the buildings that are not included in year
Yes.
1? Okay.
Yes, correct.
And I think it's important, one thing I heard Mr. Jones say that I think it's important for the board to understand is the cost estimate in year 3 for athletics is an estimate, and what he's saying to you is we could do some maneuvering of where things are on properties, but he's giving you a ballpark of what it would cost to do that work. Depending on where we put it, that might change it up or down a little bit, but he's giving you an estimate of here's what total athletics would be in that year 3 group. Well, right now, the way their system is set up, they're grouped by years, which is just the term they use. So everything in that bucket we put all the athletics in the year 3 group to kind of keep that separate. Doesn't mean we're waiting until year 3. You could do one at a time in the next 2 years, or you could decide how you wanted to timeline that. But in their system, that's all grouped into year 3, so it's in a separate location. And you'll see that when he gets to his reports on each line item.
Right, yep. Okay. So I did want to, the next exercise that we did was really look at the existing utilization of the buildings. We talked a lot about that at the last meeting. So I just wanted to recap some of that. You can see this chart just shows building use comparison, I guess, is the headline here, showing how the buildings break down and how much square foot is designated to each use there. The academic use comparison, some of these pie charts are kind of telling of how the building is really made up. Solid-Aysburg, we identified pretty quick with even the principal and some of the administration that there's a lack of support space in that building. So you can see that's one of the lowest percentages there for the support, which is a pink color. And you can see Jersey Shore is a little elementary, is on the higher side of that support. And I can kind of show you when we get into some of the floor plans. Davis was also, obviously that's the lowest with 4%. So a little bit of those just telling you about the buildings. This is here again just showing you that those spaces broken up into the different categories. The specials, you can see that Jersey Shore High School is higher on the specials. Specials we consider art, music. I believe technology might be as well included in that, so that's why it might be a little higher on the high school side. And we talked last time, summary of existing capacity. So we did reevaluate the high school. Well, we re-looked at all of them and nothing really changed on the first four, but the high school, you know, we looked into the square footage. We did get the correct homerooms, and we got the schedule from you. So we did, that ended up increasing, you know, based on what we found with those numbers to 945. So there is some capacity in the high school, we believe, based on some of the new data. We put this plan together here showing the different colors here of the buildings and how they're utilized. So red is current homerooms on the right, and green would be potential homerooms, meaning those spaces per the schedule have teachers in them all day. You know, they have a teacher assigned to them, so there is room to add more homerooms, I know, and then you got to figure out the scheduling. So we also looked at on the left side, from the white to the blue, you know, the white, light blue to the darker blue. Darker blue is used, you know, 8.5, 7.5, utilized for that many periods per day. So they're utilized a lot throughout the day. Whereas on the lighter side, maybe not so much. And those could be special ed, which is a little bit tougher to deal with because you know you have to have kids designated to the special ed, and they all have different uses. I don't like the life skills. There's a certain enrollment that needs to use those all day, so those are exceptions. But just wanted to show you, I guess, how much of that building you are utilizing. You know, we figured there was a couple rooms that, you know, could be put into the swing of everyday use where kids cycle through it. You know, one was the Yearbook Lab, and I know that was even a concern because it's set up to serve a purpose for the kids, and, you know, it's used like one period a day, I think the schedule said, but, you know, maybe that could be shifted to a smaller designated area, maybe a half of a room cutting up somewhere, and that would free up another classroom. So we saw potential there. And I think the health class, we saw there was 2 teachers that were both teaching 4 periods per day, so that was potential to combine something, but even that would have to be looked at. So, you know, based on the square footage, I think you're talking about, you know, increasing class sizes to add students to this building. And combination of, okay, how can we utilize the building better, like I'm talking about, you know, making sure special ed, maybe there's a group of 8 special ed that, you know, is a smaller group instruction room that can be cut back. Maybe they're utilizing a whole classroom. We could reconfigure a little bit to gain more room in the building. So that would be the approach going forward if you are going to add kids to this building. We haven't quite looked at that yet. We really focused on what you're currently using the building for and what the ways recommendations would be to fix what you have going on to match your current curriculum. Yep. Right. I think there's potential to make room. Yeah, it's a combination of, you know, I think the previous report had, I don't know, they were talking about having enough capacity for like 1,400 students, which we're not there. We're at 945. You know, your current enrollment is 749. So based on the square footage, it would be, you know, really maximizing the amount of kids per class in all of the class, you know, so, and a combination of, yeah, you might have to renovate, you might have to, you know, move things around to get this to work, but I do think there's potential to add kids there. I don't, you know, we're not there yet to actually show you that, but based on the data we received, yes, we did update this number.
I think the question was, when in his first draft, the capacity number for the high school was below our current enrollment, and that was questioned. So we truly went back and looked at what the schedule has in terms of where everybody is, and what every room is being used for, so that the capacity truly reflects the number of classrooms we're using and not just a square footage number. That was the question. Not that anybody was saying we're trying to create more space in the high school. It was the first draft was the capacity number was lower than current enrollment, and how could that be? So we went back and really looked at, remember when we walked through the maps, we looked at what is every space being used for, what are the classrooms, and now he's coming back and saying capacity's higher than he originally had given you. We're not giving you that for any reason other than we were trying to be more clear about what the capacity is.
Yeah, I think in general, as you can see, coming up with a capacity for a building like this is actually pretty challenging. I mean, you have a lot of moving parts. So, you know, I'm not going to, I think you can add kids to this, but it's not going to be just move them in. You know, there's going to be impact, there's going to be renovations, there's going to be costs associated with that. So, you know, it's not a matter of just moving them in right now and they're all going to fit. No, you're going to have to change some spaces around to get that to work. Right. All right, so then on to option, what we're calling option one would be summarized here, including those three priorities there. With the exception of priority one, it's priority 2 and 3. And it includes upgrading the admin building condition in all 5 existing educational facilities. And we do have a projected cost there. That's a project cost, so that includes construction, contingency, incidental to come to a project cost. And there's some pros and cons there listed. You know, keeping all the buildings, obviously we've heard some about keeping all the schools and how that would be a benefit. So, you know, these first 2 options are geared at, you know, your current buildings remaining and upgrading them. You know, we haven't gotten into any other options yet. And option 2 would then be to take the educational space cost that we'll show you in the floor plans behind this. So this would be the $23,893,000 there added to the $42 million, gives you kind of what it would take to upgrade the condition and this educational space to meet the curriculum that those buildings currently have, and provide equity, like I said in the beginning, throughout all of the schools. Same amenities.
So I want to point out in the next couple of pages, this is all out of the conversation that we had in that executive session as we looked at maps and talked about historic issues in buildings and concerns that we hear about pinch points. And he took all of those things that we discussed that you heard from principals. The first page, so Avis, for example, the first page is kind of a bulleted list of what are the issues. And then the next page, each time, the map is really just a idea of what it could look like to make those changes and address those issues.
Yep. So Avis, we talked about the pod classrooms really not being efficient for education and for that curriculum. No other building really has that type of setup. You know, all the other buildings have individual classrooms with their own walls and doors around it. And we did see that there's a potential loss of square footage there for circulation. You know, the pod classrooms really had this kind of work locker alcove that was carved into the actual educational space, where it really wasn't being used by the students or the teacher. So you can see in the example that we're trying to expand those classrooms to make them more efficient, more usable. The library is not enclosed. That was something that came up during the discussions. The gym multi-purpose room is really overutilized here. So really to be, it's got a lot of things going on. It's got the cafeteria, auditorium, multi-purpose room, gymnasium. So trying to maximize that schedule around one space is challenging. That was the feedback we heard. We heard make it work, so that's usually when we have a recommendation to provide additional space or improve the space. So in this case, we've added a gym station, and you'll see that. The kitchen lacks functional space. That'll be shown as a renovation. There's locker rooms here that aren't utilized. They're across from the kitchen, so we've shown them as an alternative use. And additional classroom space for special ed, so I can show you that on the plan. Here's the plan here. You can see to the left, we show the library as a renovation and closing that, and then you can see how we push the classrooms out farther to really get them up closer to where they need to be, 800, 830. There's some, 800 and above really would be an ideal size classroom there. And now they are enclosed. They have their own doors. So lots of benefits there as far as an educational space concerned. And then we're showing the kitchen being renovated. In this concept, we showed the locker rooms becoming the teacher collaboration. So we did hear that was a concern in many of the buildings. There was a lack of, work area and area for teachers to meet and work together and collaborate on what they're teaching the kids. In this case, that could be a teacher collab, that could be another classroom, that could be special ed. And then we have an addition, to really make it equitable per like the other elementary school and provide the same amenities. That's when we added on the gym, and that would help the challenge in the multi-purpose room as well.
Is located in this picture is exactly where the parking lot is.
Right.
So where would you move parking for teachers and admin?
Well, I think there's quite a bit of room out front at Avis. Am I right? I mean, we would definitely work through to come up with that later. And this is really shown more diagrammatic. The addition could be put anywhere at the building. We're trying to calculate the square footage, to use the cost, and to come up with a more of a budget plan.
I'm just thinking because I know
Right.
this school personally,
Right.
so I know the outside of the school, the swampiness, the etc., as to how far you could actually go out
Right.
from that building. So I was just curious as to if that would be another planning concept, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I think, if this was chosen to move forward and actually add a gym onto this building, we would pick the best spot to do it on the site, and make that work. For this educational space planning, yeah, basically for all of these options, it's diagrammatic to, is our best guess at where it would go. And, we would analyze that in the future if this option was chosen. So it looks like it's about, that whole thing with the bathrooms as well is 4,700 about.
Correct. You get to tell us what we can afford.
Right.
Yes. Yes. This is just a concept.
Yep. And the biggest thing we're trying to do here is show you what it would take to upgrade the buildings and, make equal educational space that matches the curriculum in each building, you know, as far as a square footage and at a programmatic level, which we would say is, you know, square foot and cost. That's what we're trying to show you, what it would take to upgrade all your buildings to be, you know, really fully functional and match the needs of the students there. No, we'd be more expanding in towards the library because, you know, right in this area with the work alcove is really not utilized now. Kind of to the left of the work alcove in that locker area is an open space, and people walk through there. It's more of a hallway right there. So by separating these, we're able to gain space in those classrooms towards the inside. I mean, most of the HVAC and the roofing modifications, that would all be included in the cost we carried for these renovations. You know, we're carrying, you know, just so you know, for light renovations, we're carrying $150 a square foot, which would include, you know, walls, ceiling, mechanical system, any plumbing, electrical, all in that number. The medium's 200 and heavy would be 250. So we're carrying everything needed to modify those buildings the way this shows in our budgets. But if the roof needs to be replaced, that would be in the previous recommendation, in the option 1. So, you know, I think between the both of them, we have all of that covered. Right. 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 It's a good point for these classrooms. Yeah, if anything, I think we'll look at that. If those all need a new unit ventilator or something to serve each room, we'd probably up that to a medium or heavy renovation. Okay, any other questions there? So Solidasburg is actually, you know, pretty similar here. There's a lack of special ed there, and one of the 2 classrooms that's used for special ed now is used for general education when a higher number of enrollment rolls through the building. Right now they have 2 classrooms per grade level, and in 1 grade they're only using 1. So, you know, that obviously when the kids cycle through there, they need to change that. And at that point, they really don't have any special ed space. So that was a big concern there. Again, the multi-purpose room is a concern as well. Similar setup here. The main office space we talked about needing improvement, so we've incorporated that. There's really not a good meeting space for the kids or teachers. Some security we'd want to look at if it's not done already. Using the stage currently as teacher collaboration, so we saw that as a need. And the kitchen again in computer lab is already, it's just a note. So you can see here again, programmatically what we've done is renovated the main office, expanded that. The nurses suite was actually across the hall, so we moved that over, kind of be one cohesive main office there. And that, I think actually, I don't know if that frees up a classroom or that allows us to create a bigger classroom there, 2nd grade across the hall. And with this, we incorporated for the budgeting 2 classrooms. Those could obviously be special ed as well in the addition in the blue. So, you know, if that special ed to the left of the main office, if that has to be used for the grade level, you can see there really isn't any special ed other than the Title I classroom, which is all the way to the right on the plan in the gray. So, you know, we really see the need here. If you're gonna do this building right and meet the needs, you're talking about adding on classrooms here and the gym to make that more functional, and also renovating the kitchen. Mhm. Yeah, we could look at that for sure.
That typically would require an engineering study to make sure it could support it. My guess in Avis is no, because there aren't a lot of internal walls. So you wouldn't have anywhere to put that weight on, potentially at Salvesburg, but again, it would have to be an engineering
Yeah, I
study.
think you would have to reinforce some of the structure, I would think, to do that. You know, it's very highly unlikely that they built this building to support additional load on the roof. You would have to, you know, add reinforcing, which we could analyze, you know, if the, like I said, if the option was chosen here to add on classroom space, that would be a viable thing to consider. Is if there's nowhere to go out, it would make more sense to build up, and we could analyze the cost at that time. Okay, good there. Jersey Shore Elementary. Not a whole lot of issues there as far as the space is concerned, but we did try to highlight a few things that, you know, a lot of the resource speech rooms, they're utilizing full classrooms there. So it's almost a little bit of a reverse there. They have a separate gymnasium. So I think in general, our renovations are going to show you ways that we could potentially cut up the building. Like you can see here, you know, taking two special ed rooms here with a health room and making a smaller group instruction, you know, seeing if we can chop up certain areas of the building to free up maybe another classroom that's used for special ed now that can now be used for general education. So that's really what we're trying to show. There were some reconfigurations talked about in the office area as well, so we showed that. And again, that we heard about some challenges in the kitchen serving area here at the elementary school. So we showed renovations there to cover any planning needs there. Any questions there? Okay, the middle school. So we heard, talked a little bit about this in the beginning with the athletic fields, the weight room, locker room, those are all down in the basement. But those costs are not included in the ed space planning. They're included in those athletic field costs. You know, if you're gonna do a new stadium, that number would include locker rooms at the stadium to support the football field, the soccer field. So we budgeted enough in there to cover that, and you would no longer need to provide, you know, locker rooms in the middle school. We just recommend that would just become, you know, basement storage. We heard from the admin there, music room not large enough. There's some challenges there with the way that is set up with the storage. The band's practicing on the stage while the chorus is trying to sing, and there's conflicts there. So we've included renovations there for We're not sure exactly what it would be. We've highlighted it. We've assigned some renovation costs to it. It could be space modifications. It could be improving acoustics. So we've covered that. There's a few underutilized areas we noted there. Computer lab. I don't think that's quite utilized anymore with the technology. And there was a storage room, B109. They were both on the upper floor, I think. They're using one classroom as a faculty room there, so we noted that could be a potential for utilizing in a different way. We did note from the staff there that the family consumer science classroom is not adjacent to the lab now, so we thought we could do some reconfiguring there to help the curriculum. And again, I think there's some potential here to, chop up some of the classrooms, make them appropriate size special ed, and see if we can gain general ed space, general ed education space, general classrooms. And we did note the front vestibule is for security. There's a renovation there. The kitchen, again, is a concern. The cafeteria is actually undersized here at the middle school. It's actually, I think it's smaller than the one at the Jersey Shore Elementary as far as square foot. So there is a struggle there with how many kids are in there with the periods, the 3 periods I think they have. And then on the upper floor, I wanted to show you what that could look like. So we shifted some things around here. We heard from the teacher or the principal that there's kind of some long, narrow classrooms up on this upper floor. And this plan shows them kind of being redone and separated so they're all kind of the same square footage. But I mean, we ended up gaining two classrooms, I think, up here on this level just by doing these renovations. So just wanted to show you going forward, as we start talking about how if we did add kids to a certain building, this could be potential here to add more kids on that floor. Anything there? Any questions there? No, we haven't looked at that yet. I mean, we could. I mean, I think there would be a concern there. I don't know. We'd have to get the program and the square foot of what's in this building and see if it would fit. So. Okay. Okay. No, that's fine. Then we're here to explore every option. So yeah. Well, yeah. So the high school, some of the issues we saw here, there's one classroom being used as a conference room adjacent to the main office. So it was just a note. The Yearbook Lab we talked about a little bit in the beginning there. There's a concern with the fitness center and how that exits out of the gym. So we want to make sure that that's addressed. There's a recommendation in the actual condition assessment part for that as well, just noting that it doesn't meet code. And then we kind of combine that one with the weight room lack of space, or not the weight room, that should be wrestling room. Yeah. So the plans show it as the wrestling room. The tech classroom shop space, we heard from the staff there that, those are great space-wise, but, there's a lot of things that need to be renovated and reworked to make those more efficiently used, and possibly looking at providing additional overhead doors to for the whole CTE curriculum. So we've shown some renovations there. And in general, there's a few classrooms throughout the high school that were existing. They're constructed as labs, like science labs, so they have all the gas turrets and sinks and around the perimeter, but they're teaching, English or health or something out of there. So, that's what we're talking about, where the space doesn't match the curriculum. That's kind of why we're doing this, to identify those types of areas. So we've included renovations there. And again, some of the areas we're trying to note just the underutilization and maybe where we could split it up to gain more space. You can see on the plans, we've shown the wrestling room being expanded, more diagrammatic, program wise. We would have to obviously analyze if that works with the building and the site a little more further. The fitness center shown. And I think the other areas are just, those underutilized type areas. And then we showed some of the CTE being renovated there. That's really what the high school entails as far as meeting the current curriculum. So looking at all of that, we've created this summary. You can see here on the column on the left is all of the buildings listed. Going across each column, you've got what we talked about in the beginning. Priority 1 and 2 is upgrading the buildings with their current, the condition of them, the infrastructure, all the building needs as they exist right now. And then the third column over is the athletic field numbers. You can see how they would total up for the middle school and high school. And that gets us to that 42 million that you saw previously, the option 1. And then we calculated the educational space renovations for each building, really bring them up to match the curriculum, to make them equitable. And that's how we've got our totals for all of the buildings to remain and, have the amenities that are wished upon them, I guess. Good way to put it. And then the rest of it is the backup for all those numbers. I don't think we need to review all of that. So
it is helpful though, back to Mr. Allen's question, like if you look at something and you think, well, I wonder if they thought to include X, Y, or Z, it's helpful to have this line item today. One of the things I thought of when I looked through it, especially when you think about athletic fields, when you get to the athletic section, he's giving you a ballpark of certain fields or certain items related to the field. So if you think, well, I wonder what it costs to do X, he's kind of giving you estimates of each item. So as a board, I know we talked about this being like a wish list, but if you would say, I wonder if we could do X, Y, or Z first out of capital projects, or do we need to go out and do a bond issue to do A, B, or C? This kind of gives you an idea of what you can take out of certain projects if you, as we start to discuss, oh, let's do this first, or let's do that first, or how do we order these items? You will have a sense of a cost estimate for each of these items going forward that you could pull and look at.
Money that we're getting reimbursed for this, how much is that?
The ESSER money?
I'm sorry, ESSER, yeah.
So the ESSER money there's 2 million in ESSER funds, and that's listed already separately because that's already tagged to high school, middle school, HVAC. Other questions from the board?
Back to the summary of existing capacity. Looking specifically at the number of rooms that's in the classroom. Like it is a Saudi, for instance. There's 12 rooms. reconfigure, it looks like we went with Avis and Salaries for the addition, we're adding 2 more classes.
Right.
Now for Avis, because we're splitting up those open, you know how many more classrooms?
I don't know that we,
At Avis, they weren't adding classrooms, they were enclosing the existing.
Okay.
right, yeah. Correct, yeah, we didn't add any classrooms there. I mean, I think they're bigger classrooms now, so you could look at your class size maybe, but to increase that, right, to get a higher capacity.
So the net, if you just take those 2 schools, we're adding two additional classes,
Mm-hmm.
like, with the addition of size.
Right.
I'd like to see an option that would, we've got no class sizes in both Avis and South, especially compared to JSE. And we're talking about equity. I would like to see another option that would consider what would it take if we were to renovate one but not both of them. Which one would we get the most for our bang for our buck?
Okay.
And again, this is just something to consider, that we would concentrate on one with the idea that we would not keep both of them open.
Right.
I mean, if you run the numbers with capacity, it's right now, if you take total elementary enrollment, including JSD, we can fit that enrollment in 2 schools.
Mm-hmm.
That's without adding those 2 additional classes. So I'd like to see, because we're, right now, it's $10 million, just ballparking. For the whole year, both Avis and South.
Right.
I just think that this, we're looking at how renovation I only concentrate on one of them. Operation.
Right.
I'd like to see another option.
Okay, yeah, we're definitely prepared to head down that road. You know, that was, kind of the next step is developing any additional options that you request, or we can go, as far as you want us to go with that. We could look at, with the one school, Avis or Saladersburg, we can go even beyond that as far as, two of them closing, seeing how that works. That would obviously be the next step. Right. Well, and if you think about that, the way you are on the previous one is, now you're comparing the cost to add on some additional classrooms at JSE compared to, the $20 million that it's going to cost to upgrade both of those existing buildings. So that's how this is set up now, with these costs built into that spreadsheet. We have something, to compare it to the options going forward. And that's why I was saying, we don't necessarily need to get hung up on where the addition is or anything like that. It's more of a programmatic level, so we have the square footage and the cost, and now we can start, looking at some of these options that you'd like to going forward.
I just want to make sure I'm clear. Is doing that kind of work included in our current agreement?
In ours, yes. Yeah, we included the headspace and then, you know, was exploring all of these options, yeah.
You might have already mentioned this, but is in this cost that you're allocating for these, is there money in there to upgrade like all the Wi-Fi systems and everything for all these schools? To like, I know it's going to be tough to do something like that at Salvysburg because of where it's located and that kind of stuff, but is there monies allocated for that type of tech in these new renovations?
You know, I'd have to go back and check that, where that landed as far as a priority. I know there was tech recommendations in here, but I'm not sure if they fell into that priority 3 or not. I know you guys do some technology here already, right? With a in-house kind of upgrading different things, right?
I'm flipping through quick to see if I can find any on the line items. I mean, most of our stuff is wireless, so it would be a matter of taking the access point down and running a wire and moving it potentially. But we did already go through some wireless upgrades last year, so I don't think it would be a huge requirement. It would just be a matter of maybe there would be an additional cost to move what we already have.
Right, and actually diving in here, if you look up on the screen, you can see this is the middle school. And we've got the technology items listed there, JSM technology. So we were showing clock and paging system, and then a lockdown notification system included in those costs. And all the other kind of network wireless stuff, like Dr. Ulmer said, got pulled out into priority 3, because that was already really addressed. Okay. So this was included throughout all of the buildings, really, to have it's kind of a new thing now where it can tie to your lockdown button. There's a clock on the wall with a digital display, and it's got notification lights and the speaker built right in. If you hit the lockdown, the lights go off, and your people in the building are immediately notified about, you know, an issue. So, you know, there is a lot of good things in here. I'd encourage you. I know it looks fun to read through all this.
Additional questions for Mr. Jones? Very thorough, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your time. Actually, we've gone through this for a couple other school districts, and, you know, this was the hardest part, getting all this information, you know, and we, you know, we can tweak that a little bit if you want, like as far as, well, you know, was the gym the right square footage, or, you know, and that might tweak the cost a little bit. But if we're just kind of go through this exercise and use the costs we have shown in that one spreadsheet now, you know, the next steps are just kind of manipulating those costs in the square footage. So I think we can turn it around, you know, fairly quickly. When would you be looking to have that, I guess, at the next meeting, or is there a capital project committee or meeting?
Well, go ahead.
Okay. Right.
So the question was how quickly he could turn around other options.
For Mr. Kinley's recommendation about taking just, for instance, Saldersburg and consolidating Avis into Saldersburg, how quickly of a turnaround could you give us that option in cost and what that would entail? Same with the addition on a JSE and closing the outlying elementary schools and any other options that you could come up with.
Okay.
How quickly do you think you could present that information to us in the future?
I'd say 3 to 4 weeks, we could have that together.
Okay.
Okay, before we step being on the board for I need to walk through the building to see what is on these maps, what he is pinpointing, what he's talking about as far as locker rooms go, as far as, you know, down to the HVAC units. I want to see, you know, the construction where he says that buildings need upgraded, the athletic fields. I just know as far as me just starting, if your guys are thinking of calling for votes on anything, approving anything with the capital projects, I would like to have all of the information first.
We do typically invite just capital projects to those. I guess I'm looking at my solicitor. How would that work in terms of inviting to hold their informational so we're okay? Okay. Okay. I will start working on setting. You're not deliberating. That's right. So I can, Mr. Kinley, I'll invite the whole board to those. What we typically, for your benefit, what we've done is like a building at a time and set up like once a month, go to a building and walk through the building. And then I've typically invited capital projects, but I will invite the whole board.
You only stated one. Okay.
If Mr. Kinley, well, and or with Mr. Kinley's request, a request to see the numbers of moving the admin building into the middle school and what that configuration would look like.
Sure.
Thank you.
With the elementary schools, I think you have to go both ways. If you're gonna figure one in the Avis into Saldersburg, you gotta also figure Saldersburg into Avis. Well, I agree. I'm just saying we have to make sure all the options are looked at, not just, the one you mentioned was Avis and Saldersburg. I think you gotta go both ways.
Well, we'll look at both, and, yeah, I definitely understand what you both are saying. We'll look at both. Okay.
additional questions? Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nothing else in my report, Madam President.
Next, we go to courtesy of the floor. We have one person that has signed up for courtesy of the floor. At this point, state your name and address, what agenda item you wish to talk about, and you will have 3 minutes to speak, and that is Mr. Francis.
Time. Bert Francis, 1425 Locust Street, Jersey. Hey, I'm in a whirlwind right now. I'm really got things moving along. This, what we were discussing tonight, emanated from back last year when the Capital Projects Committee had done and prepared a document for doing what they considered to be necessary to bring our buildings up to date, up to speed, do work that needs to be done, and attach costs to it. We have a color code on there. These people worked hours and hours and hours. They did their walkthrough. We were understanding that this was going to be about tonight. That was decided back then. I'm looking back at all the emails I've been talking to you people about, pages of emails, and looking at this particular one. I requested, when you people put this in the hands of the Capital Projects Committee, I asked those people what kind of a study were we going to have done. I still don't have an answer that suits me. What kind of a study are we going to have done? And in this one sentence, and his response, Mr. Allen referred to the study as a feasibility study. In the document presented by the architecture firm, they referred to their study as a facility study. So now we're talking facility study and a feasibility study. And now I heard tonight the architect talking about reconfiguration. All of these things are in conflict with each other. I think what you folks have to do, we have to be very specific what kind of a study we're going to have done, and are we going to let the Capital Projects Committee then do the work that they've been doing forever, for 100 years on our buildings, maintaining our buildings and keeping our buildings up to date, and we got damn good buildings, all of them. Brick and mortar, steel, I know every one of them. I did estimates on every building. I know every bone that was in these places. And boy, I'm furious right now. We turned this into closing schools. One time we had 27 schools. We're down to 5 now. We don't need to close any more schools. We want to maintain and upkeep the schools that we have. I'm going to tell you, you better get your ducks in a row. I want a hearing on this and want you people to define and be very specific as to what kind of study. What I'm interpreting, what transpired tonight, leans more towards a feasibility study than a facility study. You took it out of the capital projects and turned, and there's Hunt Engineers. I've done work with Hunt Engineers. They're a good outfit. I like those guys. But the Capital Projects Committee, we don't see any numbers. We don't see any numbers that all these costs are coming, everything else. We don't know anything about PlanCon. We don't know anything about Harrisburg. The last time we contacted Harrisburg said, yes, capital projects, and you're going to have to go through PlanCon. And the last we heard from them, they have no money, and we'd be 350 some on the list. This is big time serious, folks. Big time serious. I'm so disappointed in what we heard tonight, where this was turned into back when this was put in the Capital Projects Committee. There were members of the board that were making this statement that when they heard what the Capital Projects Committee recommended and the numbers they have on their document, you people have that document, the president of the board stated,
Mr. Francis,
well, let's do a study and see how much all the projects are going to cost us. And maybe we can do them all at once. We can go out and borrow some money. We can close a school. We can close 2 schools. We can come up with that. Hey, no. this is all out of whack right now, I'll tell you, folks. And I don't know where you're going to end up, but I certainly hope we don't end up with school closing talks. And I'm livid. I just never imagined I'd hear such a presentation that I heard tonight, and the way people bring it in. We've got to separate this from facilities,
Thank you, Mr.
feasibility,
Francis.
and reconfiguring. And all this has to go through. Did you hear tonight, did this architect, I know the architecture firm,
Mr. Francis, your time is up.
did they do
Time
a
is up.
census? One more question. The architects do a census? A census needs to be done prior to anything we talked about tonight. So that's up top priority on their list. We need a census study. Thank you very much.
That'll end courtesy of the floor for tonight. Moving on to the next agenda item, which is personnel. Letter E, personnel, items one. We have from A to L. For this first courtesy of the floor. All right, so we have three retirements at the beginning. We're accepting some letters of resignation from coaches and paraprofessionals. We also have some appointment of coaches, and we have appointments of a van driver and a custodian at the high school. I need a motion, and then we'll ask questions.
I'll second.
Open the questions. I have one on the custodian. Are all our positions filled now, or is there still some open positions then? Custodians.
We still need one.
One full-time?
One full-time, yep.
Okay. Thank you. That doesn't include the one that's retired. There's still a full-time position now. There's still a full-time
After
position.
today, we would have a full-time and a head custodian needed.
Okay.
And a groundskeeper. One head. Yep.
Now, the head custodian is not adding a position. Someone that's presently here would be applying for that position. So there's two people that need to be hired at this point. Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. There are no items in curriculum and instruction or building and grounds. So moving on to finance. All right, we have the normal resolution that usually happens around this time of year. If we're going to stay within the Act 1 index, and our Act 1 index is 4.7%. All that resolution is that we will not go beyond that. It does not make a decision on whether taxes will be raised or not raised at this point. B, C, and D basically go together, and it has to do with grants for our educational pieces. You want to just give her a little summary for the audience and
So
the public?
There are two grants that the principals at elementary worked on. One is in the ECRI reading program support, primarily at JSE, because we already have that at Avis and South. The other one is writing across all of fifth grade. That is, the ECRI grant is being supervised by Mrs. Johnston, and the writing grant is being supervised by Mr. Jean. So both of those come with requirements and money from PDE, and that's why you have to approve those, because you are agreeing to take that money into the grant parameters.
So they're already programs we're presently using. We're just expanding them to all elementary schools.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Why did we not have this in all elementary schools to begin with?
So it came to us through a grant at Avis, and that was the first year, essentially, and then we took it to, there's an extensive training component to it. So the first year grant was at Avis. Mr. Jean took it to Salivesburg last year, and this would be the third year at JSE. So
I look
essentially,
forward to seeing this program. I enjoy watching my child use that grade.
Basically, it was like a pilot.
Gotcha.
And so rather than doing all the elements, and that's a pretty common practice. in
Okay.
elementary school.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Nay, like sign, unlike sign, nay. Oh, I thought I already did that. Sorry, I missed it.
Oh, okay.
No, I guess I missed the first and second. I guess I got out of order. We need a motion for finance.
Motion.
And a second? All those in favor, aye. All those not in favor, nay. Who pulled those? I did. Okay. All right, so the motion that just carried was B, C, and D. And we are doing a roll call on the index. Not going beyond the index, which is 4.7%. Mr. Enders.
Mr. Allen. Mrs. Calhoun. Ms. Stover. Mrs. Edwards. Mrs. Grant.
Yeah.
Mr. Kinley. Mrs. Petrowski.
Yes.
Mrs. Stemler. Mrs. Thomas.
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0.
Okay, moving on to miscellaneous. Miscellaneous, we have A through E. Can I have a motion and we'll discuss? I heard the motion. You have something else on this besides what I have?
Maybe I'll turn to the chair. Go back and we'll see what I'm missing. Maybe.
I'm turning it off this afternoon.
Yeah, that's my mistake.
Well, because I write.
It's A through E.
Okay.
Mine's old.
Did we get
Sorry.
a second? Was there a second? No. We need a second. Okay, so under miscellaneous, we have a partnership agreement. The field trip to Wildwood is a normal yearly field trip for our jazz band. If we're being approved because it's an out of state, that we have to approve it separately. And we have a couple donations. And then we have second read on a number of policies. Any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Not in favor, nay. Motion carries. All right, there's nothing listed under old business. This is the next courtesy of the floor, but obviously we don't have one. So moving on, we are going into executive session in which no further business will be dealt with after the executive session.